Welcome to The Leaders Who Care, a podcast powered by Dynamis Group. We are here to give the stage and support to those committed to create a positive and lasting impact, way beyond the profits and margins, the leaders of the world who care for others and serve a bigger purpose. Join us on the journey of creating a better, more caring world. And now to your host, Marian Temelkov.
Bracken, welcome.
Thank you, Marian. It's great to be here.
I'm such a
Same place I've been for a while.
It's a blessing to have a leader like you, Bracken. I know you're very modest, and when I talk about success, you say, I heard you saying you should break success to pieces and don't talk about success. But the facts are that it's a blessing to know you, and one of the most successful CEOs that I personally know. And I heard you saying many things, but one of the phrases that I still remember and today that made a lasting impact is say, clean the floor and wash the windows. What did you mean by this, Bracken? I've been thinking a long time about this, but for the audience, for those who don't know you.
Well, I was before I took this job, I met with a mentor of mine, an entrepreneur named Sammy Segal, and I met him for lunch, and he had kind of studied Logitech the night before, and so we sat down at lunch and we talked for a while, and he gave me his views and on what I should do, whether I should do it. And I got up to leave, and none of it was really too surprising. It was helpful. And as I got up to leave, I got about 10 feet from the table, and I heard him behind me say, and Bracken, and I turned around and he said, one more thing. You wash the windows, you clean the floors. Just like that. I was like, okay, Sammy. And I turned around and I walked to the door and I started walking down the stairs. I thought, what did he mean by that? And I thought, I know what he means by that. And then the more I thought about it, the more I thought, no, I do know what he means by that. And he's right. It's about ownership. You need to own everything. So you need to, when you're in charge of anything, you need to own everything. And that doesn't mean you tell everybody what to do. It also means that you're not any better than anybody else in the company. You're certainly not any better than somebody who's washing the windows and cleaning the floors, because in fact, you should be doing that too. Because at the end of the day, if you really feel ownership for what you're doing, you own everything.
No, thank you for that. And it's really, I see a lot of leaders, and really nowadays it's a trend to see people to be quite a self-centered, self-focused. And I wanted to ask you a question regarding leadership and care. How does care impacted your leadership, and is there a correlation between the two?
I'll try not to give an answer that's a little too predictable. I think, in a way, I think if I think about my job, or really the job of anybody in our company, it's really all about people. We make things and we sell things and we have services. That's what a user or customer technically buys, and experiences. But the truth is, it's just about people. It's about hand-to-hand, face-to-face interaction, And so if everything we do is around people, how can it not be about caring? And caring isn't always, being kind and being loving and all those things. Sometimes it's about being clear and direct and candid. I'm not good at caring. I'm not as good at caring as I wish I were. I'm always learning. But I think the area that I probably demonstrate the least amount of care is in the amount of coaching and development and really caring about somebody's development the way I should. And it's not because I don't want to. It's because I don't think I'm very good at it. But that's no excuse, because you can get good at almost anything if you try hard enough, and I need to work more on that. So that, to me, is what caring is all about. It's about you realizing that you're in an organization. It's about people, and that you're always about caring about their own development and improvement. And in your business, you're really about caring about the experiences that your customers have with your products.
You have done many great things, and for the company, not only the company's success and growth, but also the initiatives that you have undertaken. Tell us a little bit about really your journey, Bracken, especially if we go back when you were in your 20s. Have you actually imagined that you will be a CEO of a very successful business one day, or was it just kind of happened as you went along? Was it a goal of yours to reach where you are, or or just a kind of a sequence of events?
It would be a better story if if I could say it was just a kind of a matter of luck, but it really wasn't. I mean, when I was even before my 20s, when I was a kid growing up, I was always into sports, and I grew up. I was about my height when I was 12 or 13 years old, and you can't see me, but I'm about 5'11", almost 6 feet. And I was the center on the basketball team. I was the biggest person. I had 2 older brothers, so I was a pretty good athlete. And I got naturally physically looked up to in those early days, and I was a pretty good athlete. So people would look up to me for that reason. So I became a kind of a natural leader on the court or on the field, and that carried over into the rest of my life. And then when everybody else caught up with me in height and in strength and in athletic ability and passed me by a mile, I kept liking that feeling of leading, the potential to really impact things. And so then I really got into leadership. And at some point when I was in my kind of my late teens, maybe first year of university, I sort of set out some goals, and one of them was I wanted to be a CEO one day and of a large organization. The reason I wanted to do it is because I wanted to have the biggest positive impact I possibly could, and I thought that'd be a great place to do it for me. Along the way, I lost the feeling that I really needed that, because I realized what I hope all your listeners have realized or will one day realize is that you can really have a massive impact. In fact, you can lead a whole organization out of any chair. And that might sound exaggerated, but I really mean it. So when I realized that, I stopped worrying about whether I was ever going to be a CEO or not. And I just worried about having an impact from where I was, the biggest one I possibly could. And then Logitech came along, and it worked out well.
Amazing. And Bracken, tell us a little bit about how do you care, in terms of starting with yourself. How do you self-care about you to be in that optimal, really high performance shape and have that lasting and positive impact? And then, of course, from Logitech's business point of view and everything you do.
I'm the worst. I'm not the worst, but I'm not a great person to come on your show and talk about self-care, because I'm not sure I care for myself very well. Don't worry, I don't punish myself. I'll focus on other people. In terms of the organization, how do I care? I think people in the company know that I really do care about the people in the company first and foremost in my role. And I try to communicate a lot. I try to reach out to individuals throughout the company. And I really do care about each one of them. So it's not a front, and I don't have to figure out how to do it. It comes very naturally for me, because I really do. Maybe too much sometimes. So I'm constantly in discussions, one-on-one discussions. I don't really work to show people that I care, but I do care. So I know it shows, and it's very authentic for me.
Was there a situation or moment, you said sometimes it could be too much, when your care was put to the test, Bracken? Was there a challenging situation where you were faced with?
Yeah, I've had it over and over again. I wouldn't say it's my care was too much. It was my understanding of how to care was too limited. I'd say too many times in my career, especially in the early days, I thought caring about somebody was kind of sticking with them in their current role no matter what, and that to me was caring, how can I do that to them? And I think it was my own weakness showing up. The most caring thing you can do for someone is be candid with them, be direct with them. And if they need to be in a different role or even a different company, being, actually having that hard discussion. And then caring about them, and I've always done this, caring about them all the way out the door, into the new company, in their new role, in their lives, really caring about them long after the fact. And, I hope that everybody who ever left me when I was there working for me, either by will or because it just didn't work out between us, knows that I do care. And I really do. And I care about each person's career, and I really hope they have an amazing career. Most people who've left working for me, 99% of the time, they left because they wanted to. the vast majority have had amazing careers, probably better than they would have had for me. But I really do hope that's always the case.
No, this is a really great advice, and a lot of listeners that may have a question of what are the kind of secrets or what are the advices you could give to those future leaders that are up and coming. Something that's really you can share that worked for you, that they can perhaps deploy or use in their lives.
I guess maybe I'll just rattle off a few things and you can interrupt me when you get bored. I would say one of them is that when I was 18 years old, I was the president of what's called the student body in the United States. So it's like you're a group of people who are elected, and then they're kind of the students who organize events and do fundraisers and that kind of thing, interface with the faculty in the school. And I was the president of the student body. And in that group, I had 24 people that were elected, and I was elected to that top job. And we met every week, and we organized things. And about 4 people did all the work, and about 18 or 19 people came to the meetings, and I was always there. And those 4 people worked super hard, and then some of the other ones did something, if we really pushed hard. And I would think, God, I can't wait till one day when instead of it being a voluntary effort, people are actually paid on the mission that we're on, and they'll all be, all out because they'll be paid for it. It'll be terrific. And it was probably about, 10 or 12 years later when I really had my first sizable team. And when it dawned on me, actually you're always running this all volunteer group. You just fool yourself when you're at work and you think, oh, these people are paid to do their job. No, they're there because they're either engaged in what you're doing, they feel respected by you, they're inspired by the mission if you're really lucky, or they're not. And if they're not, then they're not going to be there, or they're not going to be there in spirit. And so you're always in the all-volunteer Army business.
We have a question here from the audience, and it's saying, Bracken, great interview. What do you and when are you feeling overwhelmed or exhausted, but you have an urge and a high impact decision to make? How do you act in such situations?
I rarely am. I'm just being honest with your listener here, or your audience here. I'm rarely really exhausted. I'm very lucky physically, so far. I really have a lot of energy, and I very, very rarely really feel exhausted, but I do sometimes. And if I ever get into a position where I feel like I'm just run down, I've got a super important decision to make, it's staring me in the face, I really think hard about it, and then I sleep on it. And I strongly, strongly recommend you sleep on big decisions. It's actually kind of terrifying to me. I learned this maybe 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. It's terrifying to me how often I will think, okay, here's what I'm going to do. And then I'll go to bed, and the next morning, that magic that happens in your sleep works its way into your mind. And then it's so clear that the decision is actually exactly the opposite for very good reasons you can explain to anybody, including yourself. So I would strongly recommend not making a decision in that state of mind if you can possibly avoid it. Sleep on it, wake up in the morning, drink 2 cups of coffee, and if you're me, 3 or 4, and then make the decision.
Amazing. And you talk a lot about really impact versus success, and learning as well. Why do you think we should not kind of think of success in such a way, but more really focus on the learning and the impact?
Well, I feel the same way about success that I do failure. So I'll talk about both in the same answer. I see them, okay, it's a little bit like grades in school. You finish a class, you get a grade at the end of the class. In the UK, you get a 1 to 7, I think. And in the US, you get an A, B, C, D, or an F if you really fail it. And so you get this description of how you did it. It's a summary. It's a 1-letter summary or 1-number summary in the UK of your performance. And that's only helpful because it's somebody externally can say you did or didn't learn something. I would say the easiest way to think about the word success, the word failure, they're a little bit like grades. They only relate to something that's already happened. Okay, so nobody will say you're successful in the moment because it's a description of what already happened. So it's attributing something to you that's already behind you. So I would strongly recommend to anybody, draw a line behind your heels, okay? And this is what I used to tell my single mom growing up, and she was really suffering after a divorce. She had a bunch of struggles. I said, draw a line behind your heels in the sand with a stick. Everything behind you is just for learning. And everything in front of that line is to live and to grow and to set goals on and to make happen. So success is a terrible thing because it happened behind you. It's something you can learn from. But the problem is that it slowly works its way into your ego. And you become, some of us become, we love success. Everybody's aiming and targeting success. And when you start to feel successful, worse, if people start to tell you're successful, you kind of want to hang on to that. You like the reputation, you like the feeling of being successful. So you want more success, which on the surface should be good. But eventually what often happens to people is because they so much want to be thought of as successful and to think of themselves as successful, they want to do the same things they did before that got them there, instead of taking the risks they took before that actually got them to the accomplishment that made people think they were successful, made themselves successful. And so they end up working against success by having this mental image of being successful. So I think the easy answer is don't use the word success. Drop it. Take it out, destroy it, throw it away. Same thing for failure, which I'll talk about in a minute. Then instead of worrying about success, just think, okay, what did I learn from the experience I just had? Did it work? Did it not work? And if it didn't work, what did I learn from it? If it did work, what did I learn from it? And then you can always target impact. Instead of being after success, be about impact, positive, strong, powerful impact. Now, if you want me to, Marion, I'll then explain my view of failure.
Yeah, sure. Please.
Okay. So failure is very similar to success. They're like siblings, And failure, in a way, is it's a completely different problem. It's got the same issue. Failure is the F on the grade. Success is the A. Okay, so if you get an F, the good thing about failure is you immediately have to act on it because you feel terrible about it. So very few people walk around staying failure. So the good thing about being failure is, but the problem with failure is that you don't want it. You hate it. We all hate failing. So you run away from failure as fast as you can. And in fact, you don't want to be caught failing. You don't want other people to think you failed. You don't want to let yourself fail. So suddenly you're a failure. And certainly you shouldn't when it comes to things that are dangerous, either emotionally dangerous or physically dangerous. So you should risk manage your failures. But the truth is, from age 0, we're failure machines. We're mistake machines. We learn by mistake. So the reason you can pick up a glass today without worrying about dropping it or spilling whatever's in it usually is because of all the times when you were a 0 to 2-year-old of picking up and dropping things and picking up and dropping things and picking up and spilling things. And eventually you got very good at picking up things and not spilling or dropping. That process is the same thing we should be using in almost everything. We should be using our logic to get ourselves in a position to make decisions and then trying them and then learning quickly from them and iterating again. Today, we do too much work trying to avoid being failing or being failures. We should actually be running towards things that don't work on a serial basis and learning from them so that we can make them work or work better. That's the way we work. We train ourselves out of that during school. We need to train ourselves back into it as adults.
No, thank you for that. This makes us such a kind of important advice. And I think, if you don't actually allow yourself to fail, how you create this kind of sense of fear, that you could, and then as a result of that, you actually may not come up with those great things that you might come up with, that kind of great passion. And what do you think of, you followed your passion and strengths, how, in terms of the key success that you have had, and how do we have another question here from the audience that talks about how do you stay focused on what matters in a most in age of distraction? Do you have a goal setting process or a system that works for you, so you can kind of, because I think this technology and what's happening is one of the biggest issues is getting someone's undivided attention. It's a gift nowadays.
Yeah, I have two answers to that: the long answer and the short answer. And if your audience is patient enough, I'll give you both.
Yeah,
I think the short answer is how to stay focused. it's very easy to get caught up in the emotion of the moment, or the things that are going on around you, or the difficult conversation you're about to have, or whatever. But if you can go back, if you're lucky enough to have this sense of purpose, and it doesn't have to be one purpose, it can be multiple purposes, but if you're lucky enough to have that, you remind yourself, you stop yourself in the moment once in a while and you say, you know what, I've got to have that tough conversation, because I'm not here for me. I'm not here for this tough conversation. I'm here to change the world a little bit, to make the environment better for humanity, or to make opportunities available for every single human being. That's what I'm here for. So I got to have that tough conversation. That's my problem to have. So that's one thing I do, is I try to ladder up to the things I really feel super passionate about. And, if you don't have those, that's okay too, because you'll find them later. We can talk about that one later. My longer answer to the goal setting thing is really, I started when I was in my 20s to be very deliberate about setting goals. I was working at a big company that we had a great goal setting process called OGSM, Objectives, Goals, Strategies, Measures, and Tactics, if you want to add the T to it. So when I came home one night, I was like my kids were all over the place, and my finances were all over the place, and I was like, oh my God, this is a disaster. But I was so organized, and I had such great goals at work. I thought, what am I doing? Why am I only doing this at work? So I started building a goal setting process across 6, and later it was 8 areas of my life, including hobbies and friends and finances and health. And so I started with my purpose, which always changed a little bit. Then I went to my values, which has always changed a little bit. They're very, very similar, but changed. And then I went through those areas of my life. I set long-term goals, and I set short-term goals for the next year. And then I started to measure things. And I got to the point where I was measuring a lot of things, not everything. Some of those goals I never looked at until the December 31st the next year, when I scored myself. At the end of the year, every year I score myself. I give myself a grade. I go through each one of those, and did I get a 0 to 100 here? I'm giving myself a grade. And then I say, okay, I never got better than a 68. I think I'm grading that at the end of the year. But that's my goal setting process. If that overwhelmed you, I apologize.
No, this was so. This is so actually interesting, and I was making some notes of this process that you were doing, because that's very helpful. I know when you have. I think what I found as well is great to set up a goal, but also if you don't think about it, live it, and at some point track it, even measure it, it may get off track in that sense. And
you're right. Goals are hard. If you set goals if they're too stretching, you give up on them. Too easy, you make them immediately. So finding that middle ground is really the challenge. And I think the way to deal with that is do the best you can, and then set intermediate goals. And that always helps.
We have another question here, and this is from my end. Thank you for sharing obviously so many valuable insights. And another question is, where do you see healthcare and caring for health going in the future, especially after a difficult year like this, and also the expansion of remote work?
Well, I think first, I'll start with what matters most. I think we need to make sure that everybody's getting great healthcare.
Yeah.
And around the world, that's not happening. And I think there are solutions out there. They all have trade-offs, and we need to keep working towards no trade-off solutions. But in the meantime, we just need to make sure that everybody has healthcare. The second thing I would say is, in a year where so many people have been sick and we've had too many deaths, it really is a red alert, that boy, we're fragile. We're as strong and hardy as humanity is. We're also super fragile. So I think in a way this year needs to be another learning process for how do we deal with all things like this in the future. So I think this has been a year of great learning for the years ahead. We could probably talk about that separately. The third one is, when I step out of this year and I look longer term, I think there's a real opportunity. Once we meet the basic needs of humanity, where we really are serving everybody, and we're not today, then somewhere after that, I think there's an opportunity to make the average person healthier longer. And that is a big opportunity. And, and I mean vital and healthier and contributing and all the way, well beyond any age that we think of that today. And I think that's the future, and there are a lot of companies and people working on making sure basic healthcare gets to everybody, but also how do we extend healthiness or health all the way into much older periods so that you can get the most out of your life and have the biggest positive impact.
No, I'm also convinced that it's such a great opportunity for this, and it's great that you also reflect on this and thinking. I know you also passionate about the topic as well, and giving people equal opportunities, but also having them equal opportunity to care as well. It's one of those passions that you have. So that is a great one. And what do you think we can do or need to do to spread the care culture, Bracken? Because clearly, I mean, what you have achieved, and I strongly believe there's a correlation between care and leadership. And if there's something that unites us above all, is religion or country or nationality, is care. People respond well to care.
Well, by the way, I didn't answer your last caller's question on what's the future of work, and we could probably talk about that separately. Yeah. In this area of how do we create a more caring world, the truth is, it's funny, caring seems like it's so much about helping other people or emotionally giving them emotional help or giving them monetary help or physical help. But the truth is, in some ways, the person who benefits the most by caring is the person who cares. And there's a lot of data that shows that people who are connected to other people live longer and they are healthier. Their probability of dying in the next year is lower. So there's a lot of selfish benefits, ironically, in caring for other people. But the biggest benefit, of course, is for the people you care about. And I think we're the most. I was thinking, I have ants in my house, which is not great, but I watch them sometimes. we coexist. We live together. We've got this like happy cohabitation going on. And I watch those ants sometimes, and they all look the same to me. They're exactly identical little beasts, and they run around together. And I watch them interact. Sometimes they bump into each other. They stay for a second. They talk for a moment, and they go on. And sometimes they line up and they go on little marches and carrying off my food. And, they really seem incredibly identical to each other, like robots. But they clearly do socialize. And I was thinking, actually, ironically, first of all, if you were somebody who looked at us from outer space or from 10,000 feet up, that's what we look like. But look how unique each of us is. Look how special we are. I guarantee you, every one of those ants is unique. It's very unique. They're special, But today we see the uniqueness because we're in an ant-sized world, so we really see the uniqueness of each individual for better and for worse sometimes. And I think we got to make sure it's always for better. The second thing that really strikes me about that is those ants look to me like a system. They're like an organism. They work together. They're like a team. They do nothing to hurt the earth. Everything is biodegradable. They construct and break down, and everything breaks down with nature. And they're way more advanced than we are in that regard. We don't see ourselves as an organism. And we are, and we don't we don't create things that are completely biodegradable. And why don't we? And so I think the easiest way to think about caring is that we should care because we're all part of one. We're all really one organism. Humanity is really an organism. If somebody looked at us from really on high, we'd look a lot like the ants, all working together to do things.
What a great example, inspirational. And Bracken, you have really achieved so much and seen so many different things, and blessed to be where you are in a way. But at this moment in time, what excites you? What are the kind of things that gives you energy and motivation?
My grandfather once said about my oldest brother. I have two older brothers, a younger sister. He said, the best thing about you, Bobby, is that you are easily encouraged. Okay? And it's true of my brother Bobby. And it's also true of my other siblings, Bart and Shelley. I am easily inspired and easily enthusiastic. I'm so excited about life in general, about people, and about having an impact and trying to have a positive impact. and trying to help other people have a positive impact, that I'm excited about so many things. I'm super excited about our business. I'm the luckiest guy in the world that I sit in this chair where, I've got a whole organization that's working on connecting and helping people connect, helping people create, helping people enjoy life. That's what we do for a living. Imagine that. And then I'm super excited that I get to sit in an organization of any size where I can try to demonstrate being a follower to the people in my company who are aggressively going after making the world a better place from an environmental standpoint. And then being a leader on the outside, because that's the role I need to play. And the same thing is true of diversity and equality and inclusion and equity and belonging, and making sure that every single individual has a chance to fulfill their dreams, whether they're inside our company now. We're not there yet. We're so far behind that. But I'm super excited about the potential to make a big leap there in a very short period of time. And I want to be held accountable for that. That one I must lead. I have to lead that. And if I don't do it, I need to be fired. And it's so critical. If no light has gone for anybody in the US in the last year, there's one light that should have gone on brightly, and it was the George Floyd moment. It should have gone on a long time ago. But if your audience doesn't know the George Floyd story, you can Google it. It should have gone on a long time ago for everybody, including for me. And we've got lost time to make up. And it's true around the world. There are issues of people not getting a fair chance, equality, real equal chance everywhere in the world. And everybody deserves that. And the truth is, I think sometimes people think, well, but I'll lose part of my piece of the pie if this group finally gets a fair shake. And the truth is, it's proven over and over again. The pie expands as more people get in the game. That's the way it works. You just have to believe in it.
No, what a great advice in here. And, when you look at now, I personally also share your vision, and I'm very excited about the future, despite this such a difficult year. And when there's a significant loss, the world is designed in a way that it will balance itself out and will bring a lot of goodness to balance this significant loss. And I believe in humanity. I believe in fair chances and taking care of others. It's really in our nature. We're not designed to be self-isolated and live by ourselves. We are interconnected in that sense. And what I'm excited as well to hear is what is your vision for a better future? Short term. Next probably year or next 1 to 3 years, and midterm and a long term.
Well, short term, I'm quite optimistic. I know you're sitting in the UK right now, where there's a mutation of COVID-19 now that has us worried, but that was inevitable. Okay, there will be mutations, and the whole reason why these vaccines are what they are, why we need very high efficacy rates in the 90s and 94%, I think, for the latest vaccines, is so that we can they will tackle some of that and probably knock out a lot of that, if not all of that. So I'm an optimist by nature, but I really believe that we're on the right path. And I think as we go into the spring and summer, especially into next fall, I think we're going to see it's going to be a really exciting time in the world. I'm laying it out there, so I'm really committed here. You'll be able to judge me after the fact. I believe we're going to have an incredible period of positive world experience. Starting in probably late spring and early summer, and running all over. My cat is very interested in this conversation. I know it is important. All the way into but especially as we hit next fall, I think you're going to see. Growth in employment is going to start to grow. I think you're going to have positive attitudes emerge again where there weren't. People who were positive are going to be really practical and making stuff happen. And so I think it's going to be a great period. I am a complete optimist, but I really believe that. I think we're on the beginning of a very positive period starting about next summer. In terms of the medium and long term, I think there's several things that if we can really take advantage of this moment as a world, it's a game changer. One of them is that if we've realized one thing during this pandemic, it's that you can bring education from anywhere to anywhere. It's a little time zone dependent in some cases, but you can almost bring education from anywhere to anywhere, which means you can have the best educators in the world educating anybody, no matter where they are. If they're in an inner city school in Chicago, they can have the Palo Alto Public Schools best teacher on math. So I'm hopeful that we're going to start to see development of hybrid education systems that are going to improve the education lot for those who weren't getting the right quality, and improve the education in general. In healthcare, I'm super excited because I think telehealth was this concept that really seemed wonderful and great if you couldn't get to a doctor, but sort of unaffordable in some ways because you got to have something to get the telehealth on, and the cameras aren't good enough. And what about privacy? We just broke through that, and now we've proven that there are 90% of the cases of these things that you need to go to the doctor for, you can deal with in a telehealth standpoint, which means all you need is a low-cost phone, and you can see a doctor. And I think that's a game changer. And if we really take advantage of that, it's going to be another incredible opportunity to destroy what we've conventionally thought of, the difficulties of getting healthcare to work because of the challenges of timing and seeing the doctor and getting to the doctor and being in the right city for the expert. We're breaking through that, and we have a lot of other stuff to do. I'm oversimplifying this, but I think that's another big step that can happen over the long term is we can have super high quality healthcare to more and more people around the world. And I don't see why that won't happen. And I think those are two examples. And then the last thing I'm maybe as excited about anything is humanity's ability to create. I'm just blown away by the amount of amazing creativity that I've seen as we've all been, sheltered in place and in our own rooms. It's really remarkable how creative the world is. I always believed that. And so this is the creator's world. It's the creative age. And more people are going to create for more and more of us. And it's going to be super exciting to be a small part of that.
Amazing. I also believe that a lot of great things will come out of it, and people will start to live more the lives and passion they really want to, and take their not just physical masks, but imaginary masks as well, I always say. And
that's interesting.
and also to be able to, you said something very interesting by doing that, in this exciting age of multidisciplinary knowledge coming and access to it, being freely available. I look forward to that Renaissance age, because the Renaissance was exactly when there was a lot of knowledge and expert came together in a non-pressured way, and they started to co-create something amazing. So I'm also looking forward to what's coming. And any final words, Bracken, especially to leaders like yourself, anything that you want to encourage, share, and also future leaders, anyone that is listening, regardless of where they are in their lives?
I think I'll focus on future leaders.
Yeah.
Maybe your version of a podcast is going to appeal more to experienced leaders, but I'll focus on future leaders because, they probably, it's just, even if there's just one listening, I think there's two things that kind of oppose each other. One is everybody's telling you to be authentic, be authentic, be true to yourself. And the other is you don't know who you are yet. If you're young, you're not sure who you are yet. Maybe you don't know who you are yet, even when you're my age at 57. So first thing I'd say is don't hesitate to try on new you. Put on new aspects of you, to try it on for size and see how it feels, and give it a little shot. If you want to be an extrovert, try on being an extrovert, and don't try it just for a day. Try it for a week. Try it for a month. If you want to be a lot kinder than you are and more generous, test it. Try it on yourself. Make yourself do it, even if it's uncomfortable. Do it over and over again. See how it feels. So my first comment is for those young leaders out there, new leaders, and even for older leaders like me, is that there's something you kind of wish you were, try it on for size, and then give it a real shot. Don't just wear it for a day. The second thing, which is kind of the other end of the spectrum, is once you do get comfortable with kind of who you are, stop blending in. We've made too many people in the world blend in to the cultures that we've created. We need the cultures to adopt, to start to bring in and adjust themselves to the people in the world. And I think that's a missing, in other words, be yourself. And I guess to all the leaders like me out there, let people be themselves. Let your culture flex to bring in new types of people. Make sure you've got a culture that can bring in people who are completely different, who feel like they belong. You will be better off. The world will be better off. Your organization, I guarantee you, will be better off. But you've got to force that. You've got to make that happen if you're a leader. And have people in your organization that don't look like you, whether it's race, of course, gender, ethnicity, identity, sexual orientation, all of it. You will only benefit. I see it all the time now. As we're not even close to diverse enough, but we're working on it. As we get more and more diverse, I just see more and more benefits. We're worth almost 16 times more than when I started. And I'm telling you, one of the reasons we did is because we got more diverse from a gender standpoint. We got nowhere near diverse enough in all the other ways. I think the next 16-fold will be correlated or maybe caused by the fact that we got diverse in all the other ways, and we're really working on it.
Amazing. What can I say? Thank you so much for being such a great leader and a giver, more of all. Thank you for your time, Bracken. I know.
Thank you, Grant. You've been a great friend to me and to Logitech, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. We love what you do and Logitech. And you know what? I also want to mention, there's another reason I like so much Logitech is that kind of blend of the friendship between Europe and US. As a proud European, I love to see that, as you say, diversity coming together, as a living organisms. And, thank you for taking the time and giving back.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Marion. Happy holidays.
Thank you.